In this video, we'll learn about one of the very important concepts of layout, which is setting the scale, and understanding the scales in viewport is quite important. So here we have this A3 size layout, and here we have this floor plan layout active. Also we have this layout 2 and layout 3. Now in all of these layouts, A3 paper size has been activated. Now I'll go to this floor plan layout and now go to this layout tab and I'll make a new viewport here. So go to this layout viewports panel, select the drop down, select rectangular. Now click at this point and I'll drag it and I'll add it up to this point. Okay, so here we have it. Now we don't know the scale of the objects here. We don't know the size here. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll simply double click inside and I'll zoom into this area and I'll try to fit this floor plan completely in our drawing. Okay, now this one is fitted, but still the exact scale of this drawing is not yet known. Now in this case, when you activate any of these viewports, right now you can see that this viewport is active as I can select these objects here. And after activating the viewport, when you go to this status bar, you'll see this scale option. Now from here we can change the scale of this viewport. So click on this option and you'll see this menu. Now here we have all of these scales available. So right now you can just change it to any of these values. So I'll select this 1:30. And that's quite big. So I'll change it once again. I'll change it to 1:50. And that looks just appropriate. So I'll just pan this drawing a little bit and I'll ensure that the accidental zoom in or zoom out does not happen. And now look at the scale on the status bar. It's still 1:50. That means we have the correct scale. Now double click outside and here we have it. We have the exact scale set for this viewport. So right now, the size of this paper is obviously A3 size and the size of this object is 1:50. So you can mention that scale directly on the title block here, or you can do that with these viewports, which we'll do in a moment. So we have the first viewport prepared. Now let's go to the second one here. Now here we have this viewport, simply erase it. Now here we'll add more viewports. So I'll start with the rectangular. And I'll add the first viewport here. Let's make it of this size. And here we will try to fit this front elevation. So I'll fit this front elevation just like this. So again, we don't know the scale. So I'll change it to some appropriate value. So I'll go to this scale option and I'll change it to 1:50 once again. And that looks just appropriate. So I'll keep it at that way. Now double click outside and let's create another viewport. So I'll select this point and I'll click somewhere over here and make sure all of these viewports are within the plotter margin. Now I'll double click inside, I'll zoom into this area, the east elevation, and I'll set its scale. So I'll once again go to this option, I'll change it to 1:50 and this looks just right, but we can still change its scale. So here I'll click on this menu and here we have 1:50, but we have a limited number of options here. For example, we only have 1:40, 30, 20, 16 and 10. What if we want to add some other scale? For example, if you move up here, we don't have 1:60. So if you want to decrease the size, we don't have 1:60 or 1:70 scale. So those scales can be added directly for our new viewport. So I'll click here and now I'll try to add a new scale. So we just want to decrease its size and we want it to be of 1:70 scale. Now for that, I'll go to this model view and click on this scale. Here also we have the scale visible. Now select this custom option. Now here we have list of all the scales which are available. Simply select add and give it a name. So I'll name it as 1:70. Now here we need one paper unit to be equal to 70 drawing unit. So that's the unit which we'll set, 1:70, and then click on OK and OK. Now the scale has been added. Let's go to this layout 2 and once again double click inside this viewport, go to this option and here we have 1:70, the custom scale. Let's click on it and we have it now added, and you'll see that the size of this object or this east elevation will decrease appropriately. Now I'll double click outside and here we have it. Now in this case, if you want to adjust the scale or the viewport, you can do that simply. So I'll select the boundary and I'll adjust it just like this, and I'll also move it somewhere over here. Now let's move to the third layout. So I'll go to layout 3 and here we'll add a detail view. So I'll select the boundary of this layout, erase it, and once again I'll go to layout tab, select the rectangular option, and I'll create a new viewport here. Now in this case, we want the kitchen in detail view. So I'll double click inside, I'll go to floor plan, and here we have the kitchen. So let's zoom into this area. Now we'll change it to appropriate scale. Right now we have a random scale. So I'll go to this scale option and let's change it to 1:10. Well, that's quite large. I'll change it to something small, which is 1:, let's say 20. And that looks quite perfect. So I'll just adjust it within this viewport here. Okay, now this looks appropriate. So now double click outside and we have this kitchen completely in our view. So if you want to modify its boundaries even further, you can do that. For example, I'll remove that text and I'll move it somewhere over here like this. Now we have prepared 3 different layouts along with the model view. So we have the floor plan here. We have the layout 2, which has the front elevation and east elevation. So I'll rename it. So I'll right click and select rename and I'll rename it as elevation. Now I'll go to layout 3 and I'll rename it as detail. So we have all of these 3 layouts. Now we can add scales also with these viewports. So right now we have the first viewport here, which we have set, and the scale for this viewport was 1:50. So when you select the viewport boundary, you'll see this scale here, 1:50. So if you want the same information to be presented here, you can use fields. For fields, I'll go to insert tab. So let's press escape, go to insert tab and select field. Now we have this field window. Let's select objects from this drop down. Now from the field names, select this object option. Now click on this, select object box. Now click on the viewport boundary and all the properties which are related to the viewport will be listed in this property box. Now we need scale. So I'll select this custom scale option. And we have the formats. So different formats are listed here. You can select from any of these. I'll select this format and the preview can be seen here quite clearly. So we have 1:50 scale. Now click on OK and add that value. So right now you can see that the text is very small as it is taking the properties of its current text style. So you can change it. So I'll erase it. And now I'll go to Home tab. I'll expand the annotation. Here we have the text. Let's click on this text style. And here we have the text height. So right now you can see that the standard text is active. I'll change its value and I'll change it to 0.4 inches. Now click on apply, click on close, and we'll once again add the field here. So once again go to insert, go to field. We have the same set of options already selected. Click on the box, select the viewport, custom scale, the scale, and OK. Now we have it of appropriate size here. So you can change the size of your text and you can change its property and that will automatically be taken up by the field. So we have here the scale. Similarly, you can add this scale for other viewports. So in this viewport also, you can click on field, click on object type, select the viewport boundary, custom scale, and OK. And here we have it. The scale has been added here. You can do the same for this and the remaining viewports. So this was all about setting the scale of different objects in the viewports.